Happy New Year, pretty much everyone, as we've entered the new year, 2025, and I am going to start off the new year by reviewing for this episode, Shadows and Pretties, episode 358. Today, I am going to be reviewing a shark movie to start off called Deep Blue Sea. This came out in 1999, so it's almost 26 years old. I could definitely say that this is actually a really interesting movie. I mean, it may not be as good as, Jaws, like the shark movie, which I've seen Jaws, which of course I did review it on this channel. Jaws is actually a pretty good film. While this film is about a shark, I personally really like it. But I do have to say there are flaws with this, and there's some things that don't really stand out to me too well, as you could probably tell. The reason why I'm saying this now is because, I thought Jaws is a really good movie. This film I remember watching when I was a kid, and this film didn't really scare me at all. So, there is Deep Blue Sea 2 and Deep Blue Sea 3 that came out in 2018 and 2020, but I'm not going to touch on those because I've not seen those movies, so I am going to go ahead and review this one. Now, however, though, this film primarily shot at Fox Bajada Studios in Rosarito, Mexico. So basically, this film is, the where the you know what's really funny is that the sets above that were constructed above the large water tanks that have been built for James Cameron's Titanic film. Although Deep Blue Sea features some shots of real sharks, most of the sharks that are used were animatronic or computer generated. So, I mean, I could definitely say that it's kind of not really, as good as Jaws, but I could definitely say this got Samuel L. Jackson in this film, so I gotta give him credit for that because I think he did a really good job with this movie. And there's also Stellan Skarsgård, who is Bill Skarsgård's dad. So I'm gonna talk about what the plot of this movie is about for any of you guys who have not seen this movie in like a really long time, and for those who want a refresher of this movie. So basically, the plot is it takes place in a remote underwater facility where Dr. Susan McAllister and Jim Whitlock are conducting a research on mako sharks to help with the reactivation of a dormant human brain cells, unlike those found in Alzheimer's disease patients. After one of the sharks escaped the facility, attempts to attack a boat full of young adults, financial backers send cooperative executives Russell Franklin to investigate the facility. Susan and Jim prove their research working by testing a certain protein complex that was removed from the brain due to the largest shark, which bites off Jim's right arm. Upon awakening in the laboratory, Brenda Kearns, the tower's operator, calls a helicopter, braves the heavy rain and strong winds to evacuate Jim. As Jim is being lifted by cable jams, dropping Jim and his stretcher into the shark pen, the largest shark grabs the stretcher and pulls the helicopter down, killing Brenda and the pilots, as well as causing mass explosives that severely damage the facility. So, in the laboratory, Susan Franklin and Wrangler Carter Blake, marine biologist Janice Higgins, and engineer Tom Scroggins witness the shark mash and stretcher against the laboratory's main window, which then showers drowning Jim and flooding the city. The group goes to the facility's wet entry where they plan to take some submersible to escape, where Susan confesses that the others and she and Jim genetically engineered the sharks to increase their brain size, as they were looked to be naturally large enough to harvest significant amounts of protein complex. So this protocol made the sharks even smarter and deadlier. In the facility's kitchen, which has been partly flooded, cook Sherman Preacher Dudley, whose parrot was eaten by a shark, manages to kill the big fish by setting off an explosion with his lighter. So when the group reaches the wet entry, they discover that some submersible that has been damaged and is unavailable for use. While delivering the monologue emphasizing the need for the group unity, Franklin is dragged into the submersible by a shark and devoured. The remaining crew opt to climb up the elevator shaft, the risk destabilizing the pool. As they climb up, explosive tremors cause the ladder to break, and Janice loses her grip and falls to the water. Despite Carter's attempts to save her, a shark drags Janice under the water and kills her. The rest of the group moves on, encountering Preacher, Carter, and Scroggins to go to the flooded laboratory and activate a control panel that drains the stairway to the surface. While Susan heads to her room to collect her research material, Carter and Scroggins reach the control panel, but the largest shark storms in, ripping Scroggins apart and wrecking the controls. In a room, Susan encounters another shark and electrocutes it with a power cable, destroying her research in the process. So after regrouping, Carter, Susan, and Preacher go onto the decompression chamber and swim to the surface while using oxygen tanks to bait the last shark as it attacks. Upon reaching the surface, Preacher is grabbed by the shark, suffering injuries to his leg, but he is released when he stabs the shark in the eye with his crucifix. Carter then realizes that the sharks have been using them to flood the facility so that they can ram their way through the fences and surface. To keep the shark from escaping the open sea, Susan deliberately cuts her hand and dives in the water. Although she manages to distract the shark with her blood, she is unable to get out of the water and gets devoured. Despite Carter's efforts to save her, while Carter is holding the shark's dorsal fin, Preacher shoots the shark with the harpoon and pierces Carter's thigh, but Carter orders Preacher to connect the railing wire to the battery, sending an electric current to an explosive charge on the harpoon, killing the shark. Carter manages to free himself just in time as the shark manages to breach through the fence right before it goes down. He resurfaces and swims to ashore, reunited with the Preacher. Moments later, they see a boat approaching the sinking facility, and that's just how the movie ends. Now, this is definitely a really good film. I mean, it was definitely a really interesting movie. I mean, it's not too scary. I mean, there's some unsettling scenes. But the principal photography the filming shooting of Deep Blue Sea began in 1998. And most of the film was shot in Roresto, Mexico, where the production team constructed sets above large hot water tanks that had been built for James Cameron's Titanic movie. So I could definitely say this was definitely a really interesting concept. I personally really have to say right now. So what's really interesting is that the film's ending was changed shortly after its theatrical release. Originally, Burroughs' character would escape the shark-infested water and live. However, the test audiences who saw the film to be less than a month before it was released was angered by the ending because she was responsible for the shark experiments and was seen in the film's villain aside from the sharks themselves. As a result, the production team did a one-day reboot in the Universal Studios Shark Tank with some computer-generated work for the sharks to change it. A fan petition created in 2019 calling on Warner Bros. Released the original ending that received the support from both Thomas Jane and Rennie Harlin. So, in 2009, on the film's 10th anniversary, Harlan explained that Deep Blue Sea was the hardest film he had ever made because most of the shooting days were involved the team standing on water or being underwater for long periods. According to him, just practically from putting a wetsuit on in the morning, being in the water all day, your script and all your paperwork has to be made of plastic paper. And the things that you wouldn't even think that float, they float. Or things that you hope would float actually sink, and then you can't find them anywhere. So, of course, I did not even know that there was a deleted scene in this movie where Susan lives. But apparently there is, so that is definitely something I did not even know. However, there are two sequels such as Deep Blue Sea 2 that came out in 2018. So, I definitely have to say it was definitely a really interesting film. Although I've not seen it, so I'm not going to touch on that one. I'm also not going to touch on the third one either because I have not seen those two. So, I can't really say that for a fact if it's any good. Now, what I do like about this film is that it's not as good as Jaws, but it's definitely a pretty good movie for something, even though it came out in the 90s. While Jaws was better than this movie was definitely had pretty good moments in it. I mean, there was pretty good shots and stuff, but this film, I definitely have to say, it's not really as good as Jaws, but it's definitely an exception I can definitely make that is really good. So, I guess with that being said, I mean, this movie, it's a good one, but it's not as good as Jaws. That I can definitely say. It's not as good as Jaws. I definitely have to say Jaws was definitely a really good movie. So, I guess with that being said, if you're a shark fan and you like this movie, then I can recommend giving it a watch. If you like movies like Jaws, you definitely really have to check this one out. Now, I'll say it's not perfect because there are some flaws with it, but I personally thought this one was an alright movie. I mean, I like Jaws more because with Jaws it was more entertaining and stuff. This one, it definitely has, a sort of feel to it, if that makes sense. But, it's just not as good as Jaws, but it's still a good movie. I'm not saying this movie is terrible or anything. Like, I'm not trying to sit there and say that this movie sucks or anything. No, 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 no. This movie was actually pretty good, but I personally liked Jaws better, if that makes total sense. So, anyways, like I'm always going to say, and like I always continue to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these movies. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. So if you don't like this movie, I respect your opinion on it. If you like this movie, I can respect your opinion on it as well. So anyways, I guess with that being said, and that being the case, excuse me, apologies, for that, I just burped, but, anyways, excuse me, I think I might have ate, my Wendy's have been making me really gassy today, so, I don't know why, but it is. So anyways, with that being said and that being the case, what did you guys personally think of this movie? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this movie a lot better? Feel free to let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and if you're new to my channel, leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you guys want to go follow me on Blue Sky, follow me on DeviantArt, follow me on Twitter. Links to those will be in the About page section, so you guys can go follow me on there. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. So, that's pretty much all I have to really say about this movie, but if I'm missing something that I did not talk about, let me know what it is in the comments below, because I'd like to hear what you guys think. So anyways, I guess with that being said and that being the case, I'll be catching you guys all in the next video. Have a good day, night, evening, or wherever your time zone is, and we'll be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out, everyone.